Welcome back to my channel, guys. Episode 3 of An End to Bitcoin Maximalism. Bitcoin cannot be dethroned. That's the topic that we're going to go over in this video. So, basically, one of the beliefs of Bitcoin maximalists is that Bitcoin cannot be dethroned. Bitcoin has already run market share through network effect. It will not lose value stored to another project. Bitcoin has first mover advantage, and so its market position is secured. If an altcoin becomes a dominant crypto, then crypto cannot be a store of value because it can always be replaced. I've stated in previous videos that I think this is just plain stupid, and I'm not even going to address it because I think people who think such things can't think very well. So accumulating wealth has no leaders. That's the first thing I'm going to point out when looking at cryptocurrency. And what we're going to look at is current market position versus if there's a market that a project is going for, we're looking to see its relative size to where it could be when it acquires market. And then blockchain fundamentals for price growth, the elements of a project that lead us to believe statistically that a project is either more likely or less likely to perform, and blockchain structures. So what questions are important to us relative to whether Bitcoin can be dethroned? Well, actually, it's irrelevant whether Bitcoin can be dethroned. What we do is we look at a project and we evaluate whether or not the project's going to produce returns better than Bitcoin. That's the only thing we could care about. And we say this is where Bitcoin is and this is where we think Bitcoin will be. And we'll say where the project we're looking at is and where it's going to be. And so can this project expect returns in terms of price growth better than Bitcoin from market acquisition? So the projects, through the work put into the project, through market acquisition, can it outperform Bitcoin? Now, I'm going to be honest, 99% of projects are not going to perform better than Bitcoin. However, there are some projects that will, like Ethereum, for example, or Celsius. They have significantly outperformed Bitcoin. And so those are the kind of questions you ask, when looking at a project. Because if you can't beat Bitcoin, then why would you even want to hold something besides Bitcoin? So the size of the market cap now, and if the project is successful, the size that it will be after it's acquired its market. And if the token design is going to lead to that market growth. So store of value is irrelevant to us. Again, only asymmetrical profit-loss models are what matter. So this is basically my investing strategy right here. And I'm going to go over another fundamental analysis. There are two types of fundamental analysis. So I'm going to go over both of them. But this is the one I use. Basically, it's possible gain times multiplied by the probability of success. And this is the most important function in my investing strategy. And it's quite simple. Like I said, it's just simply probability of success times the possible gain. And possible loss is 100%. So you could lose everything you put in. That's for crypto. That's the way I consider it. The possible loss is 100% in terms of Bitcoin. So if you're going to invest one Bitcoin in something, the possibility is that you're going to lose one Bitcoin. Now, the way you would do it is, let's say there's a 50% return or a 50% probability of success, and the projects would return 3 Bitcoin. Is that something that you should invest in? So if we had something that has 3, the possibility of gain times the 50%, which is 0.5, that would equal 1.5. So if we were to roll the dice on this multiple times, that's my dice. If we were to roll the dice multiple times, the average out will be a profit of 50%. We'll come out of this thing with, some profit. Because the odds are that's basically the math of it. Now, it's much more abstract and difficult to assign values to these things, and that's what we aim to do using fundamental analysis. So, once again, so in crypto, it's 100%. Now, I use my model that if you've seen my videos before, my model is an attempt at modeling this, the possible gain times the possibility of success. This is my model, and this is, if you could see it in any video. And basically, the goal of this is to find the strength of an overall project. And you can see this is the value you put in, the size of the market cap at market capture, and the current size of the market cap. So whatever it's going to become, whatever it is now, divided by, whatever it's going to become, divided by what it is now, subtract 1 times the value put in, and that will allow for you to determine whether or not something's worth doing. So I actually put an example. I'm getting ahead of myself. Okay, so if something's like going to 10x, you think it's going to 10x in value, you subtract 1, that equals 9 value, 9 times the value put in. Let's say you put in $1. So it's $9 for each dollar is what you would expect to get out. Now let's say there's a 30% chance of success, so that would equal $3. So for each dollar, you would expect to get $3 over average if model is correct. If your model is correct, you're going to see that result statistically for each roll of the die that looks like that. So for many attempts, it average out, it equals out. So that's why we diversify, because we want to take many rolls. That way, if you have a 20% chance and an 80% chance, and there's a 20% chance you're going to fail, you might actually just get unlucky and roll that chance. So it's better just to roll it multiple times, and you get the averaged out profit. And that profit in crypto could be very asymmetrical. And that's why many cryptocurrencies are very good to invest in. So the possible gain is the market size, the current size, and the token model. Those are the things that help us lead to the possible gain, like how much gain there could be in this formula. The probability of success is the team, and the timing, whether or not you're in the right timing for that particular project or that technology. For instance, if you saw a cryptocurrency project talking about AI or something, it might be too early. So even though they could be the most talented team in the world, the timing might be off, and so the probability of success would be low. So that's what we look at when we want to assign. So there's probability of success, possible gain. Those are the two things that we went over up here, and these are the things that are going to influence those sides of the equation. So another approach to fundamentals that I want to get into before I go further. So this is George Gammon. I highly suggest you watch his channels. And he's got something called the Rebel Capitalist shows. And I would suggest, if you are a crypto investor, that you also follow macro investing as well. And this is the Warren Buffett strategy. And this is something for predictable, reliable income. It's good for large portfolios. And this is the other side of fundamentals. This guy is the perfect example of this Warren Buffett strategy. But, I would suggest his strategy when you have a larger portfolio. And I will be migrating my portfolio after I've reached significant amounts of growth. So my method is more risk for higher reward. Okay, so let's distinguish the difference between his strategy and my strategy. Okay, so he likes to pick up something that's worth $3 for $1 and sell it when it's overpriced. And he likes things that pay him to own them, such as dividends, etc. So, in other words, he likes deals where nothing needs to happen for him to make money. Hey, I like that too, but that's a lot harder to find, and the margins are going to be a lot lower. What I do is I use probability of future success. So you're starting to see a difference here. He doesn't. Gammon's criticism in this probability of future success is that you pay $3 for $1 in hopes of selling it for $5. In other words, he sets the future probabilities as 0 in his attempts to invest, and purely seeks out inefficiencies of market pricing. So that's one of the major differences between the traditional Warren Buffett strategy and my more risk strategy, is that I do not set future probabilities to 0, whereas he does. And this method, the Warren Buffett method, will miss high growth like Tesla and crypto, but it yields higher income than market savings rate. So you could put work into a system, and you could get significant growth through that work, that value added from work. But that's why it works for bigger portfolios, because it's more safe, and you get a steadier growth, usually beating savings if you're good. So once again, so in my opinion, The Buffett method is a slow but almost assured method for growing your portfolio. The faster method is future probability plus Buffett fundamentals. And the fastest, which is what we aim to do, is go for the undiscovered market set probability to lower than is logical. So whereas this is similar to Gammon's method, where he's looking for inefficiencies, we're looking for inefficiencies of that future probability of success. We're looking for, inefficiencies where people are assigning that much lower than it really is. And then, so where we have the future probability, but where people are assigning that future probability much lower than it should be, and plus Buffett fundamentals. And so this is a higher risk, but there's a higher chance of reward. So that is the strategy behind looking at altcoins. So now we are going to focus on how we can determine future probability and possible gains. Okay, so blockchain fundamentals. So let's take a look at the team and the token model. So regarding token models, there's two different real focuses in cryptocurrency that you're going to look at. There's going to be a team focus and there's going to be a network focus. And so we're going to get into the difference of where you should put your focus when looking at these projects. Now, a project can be moved between these two models if it changes its token model. So these are basically models where distribution doesn't matter versus models where distribution is very important. So this is one of the key things that my channel will bring to people in the cryptocurrency space. Some people still don't seem to understand this, that you can invest in a very centralized project if you're focusing on the team and if that team is going to deliver. But if you're going to focus on the network, these are the type of models where distribution is very important. Decentralization is very important. So there is going to be two models. Now, projects that have dividends and burns, those are projects where it doesn't matter if it's decentralized because the token entitles you to some percentage of the total output of that project. So this is like an equity almost. And so it doesn't matter if you own 1% of tokens. If you're getting paid like 20, 30, 40% returns, the token's going to explode in value. It doesn't matter. All that matters is the team delivers. The token goes up with revenues as a company grows, but it has no governance control. So, I have UFR, Trust Swap as dividend and burns. I also have Celsius being and Lisk, or not Lisk, Link, Chainlink is like this one as well, where the token goes up with the revenues as the company grows, but the governance doesn't matter. Chainlink is centralized by the number of accounts that control it, but it doesn't matter because we're focused on the team, and what they do is pays out to us as they grow it. So token partial control through governance, Trust Swap. Okay, so there's also the token models where it has partial control through governance, and it gives you key decisions. It's not involved with the extension of the blockchain, and it's not part of consensus algorithm. So basically where the token is part of consensus algorithm, that's where decentralization matters more, when the token is required for consensus. So once again, this is where team and market is everything. Now the models where distribution is very important. The token pays for computation, so it's like like gas on Ethereum. Energy Web token, Ethereum, Bitcoin, proof of work systems. Those are the type of systems that must be decentralized to have any value. The token is used for consensus. Link and Ethereum 2.0. But no governance functions. So there's some that have no governance functions, but the token is used for consensus. And these also are the ones where distribution matters a lot. And token has complete control over everything. That is Polkadot, Wax, and Kusama. So consensus and governance all functions. The token is the ruler of the blockchain, both consensus and governance. So yes, that matters that it is decentralized. So project leadership is always important with both of these. Okay, so a team is extremely important. Essentially, you're investing in a project team. This is almost like an equity investing in traditional security models. The number of users is extremely important in this model. Essentially, you're investing in the current market capture and user engagement. So between these two blockchains, you're looking, this one you're investing in the network effect, this one you're investing in the team. If the token is part of extension of the blockchain's record, the consensus, it should be must not be centralized. This is the record of truth and trust for the project. Now let's get into token release. So once again, between these two projects, regarding the token release, this one doesn't matter. It could be centralized. It doesn't matter, so we don't care. But where this one we do, one thing you want to consider if it's a project where distribution matters, you want to invest in something that's beyond the 50% release schedule. Because that is when I've noticed this all-time lows. I've noticed this for many. This is just Anchor as an example. I've noticed all-time lows in many cases right around where 50% are released, and then after that is when you can get tight token value growth, because it works out mathematically. It's exponentially release of tokens till you get 50%, and then after that it can only drop off. If it was to look like that. So so you want to consider this into projects that you invest in where distribution, decentralization is important. It is irrelevant for projects that you don't care. Okay, so both can be extremely profitable models. All right, so project timing, tech is ready for rapid growth. Addressable market size, okay? So think in timelines as well as market size. So market size, current size, and timing. So these are the other components of this equation. Okay, so we went over these components of this equation, and now we're going over these components. And the components we went were over team, token model, showing possible gains, probability of success, and now we're going over timing for probability of success, and market size, current size for possible gain. Okay, so market is ripe like a fruit to capture the network effect. So when you look at a project, too early is good, too late is worse because you're not going to get anything, and the best is the sweet spot, which is max growth, and that is when a project is in the growth curve phase, and it's right when the technology, right when the market acquisition is in a good spot. So once again, this is the best spot. This is still a good spot to be. Too early is always good because sometimes the market will realize something and you'll see quick price appreciation before it even is the project's growing. And I would say Polkadot's kind of like that. Polkadot's growing quickly now, so that's why it was already good to get in early, because everybody's realizing how valuable that project's going to be. So it's still a good, but you might experience opportunity costs if it doesn't see that huge growth during this period. It doesn't see the growth before the sweet spot. Okay, so this is where I think projects are. I think Bitcoin's towards the end, but still in the massive growth phase. I think Ethereum and Chainlink are right dead center of the sweet spot. Celsius as well. Polkadot, I think, is just now beginning to get on the ramp up. I think it's going to be quite awesome to see the growth that we're going to see there. PCX and Fala, not even started yet. LYXE, not even started yet. Projects up here would be like gold and silver, where the network is already acquired. They're not going to experience change. They might experience change in the sense that people rush in because the collapsing dollar, but they're not in like this huge growth curve of network effect. So another thing you want to look at, it's a project is small compared to its addressable market. So we looked at market timing here. Now we're looking at the addressable market. So, non-fungible tokens is this, pretty good size project or market. Banking, that's going to be much, much bigger. Gaming is probably going to be smaller. It's going to be big. And, this one might even grow with VR and things like that. But then you see derivatives being this massive, massive market. It's going to be huge. And the ones that address derivatives are DOT, Kusama, and Ethereum. And so this is going to definitely be the ones that I personally like investing in, is derivatives. But yes, you want to think about the size of the market and which projects are really going for it and which ones are going to capture it. And for me, it's these. So another thing to consider is, in the thinking of Bitcoin and its relationship to the alts, most investors will take the raw Paul path. And that is, so follow Real Vision. You guys should check that out. This guy's from Goldman Sachs. And what happened with him, and this is what happens with all good investors, they start off being very bullish and very fundamentally tied to Bitcoin. But then they realize, wow, Ethereum is so awesome. So they start investing in Ethereum because they realize how amazing Ethereum is compared to Bitcoin. And then they get into the alts. And such as Polkadot, and they dig down further down and they realize that this is a transformative technology that is not centered around one blockchain. Okay, so Bitcoin versus proof of work versus alt consensus models. So what we did here was we looked at growth potentialities. Now we're going to look at consensus models and see if Bitcoin's proof of work is the best consensus model. Because that's what we're doing here is we're breaking apart this fundamental belief. For store of value and for other purposes, will Bitcoin stay king? So this is the different consensus models. You have proof of work, proof of stake, delegated proof of stake, proof of authority, directed acyclic graphs, and proof of work, proof of weight. So in this one, it wastes a lot of resources. It's expensive. You could see my older video talking about Bitcoin, the last video, video 2 in this series. And it has probabilistic finality, and miners are used. Proof of stake. Lock up coins as collateral and use game theory, and mining is turned into validators. Delegated proof of stake, elect leaders to run a very centralized, very fast, less secure type system. Proof of authority is block producers are set ahead of time. And directed acyclic graph is gossip protocols. They have exponential message propagation, time sent through fair ordering records. And, this is a very complicated one. But basically, it doesn't solve scalability according to Vitalik Buterin. He's much smarter than me. I tend to believe him from what I can see. And I'll explain why it doesn't solve scalability. But I do think it is going to be an important model in the future. But it helps with latency, but it doesn't solve scalability. But it does have some unique probabilities that I think will allow for DAGs to stick around in the long run. And they also are somewhat part proof of stake systems. And the proof of weight is just it's just a broad term for anything could be weighted, and you could replace that with anything. I don't want to dig too much into that. Okay, so these are the different models and their compromises. As you can see, proof of work is the worst one, in my opinion. And you can see that can Bitcoin survive without inflation? Everybody says Bitcoin's so secure, but we don't know in the long run, we don't know how Bitcoin's going to handle. This is an area for concern, is how will Bitcoin survive without inflation in the future, because it also risks centralization of mining with lower inflation rates. So as Bitcoin's inflation goes down, and as transaction fees fly off the network, as they are offloaded from the network onto other networks, Bitcoin risks being unprofitable for miners, causing centralization for the miners. And so this is an area of risk that a lot of people are discounting just because it seems like it's far away. But some decisions going to have to be made about this, and that is far from known. And so this is the worst model, is proof of work models. They're far from secure. They might be secure as long as there's inflation. One thing that Bitcoin could do to resolve this would be to add a burning effect to each transaction, and that way its burning effect could counteract inflation, and so effectively there would be no inflation. They could do something like that, and then I would actually consider it quite secure, because then it could have that inflation to pay for miners. All right, so regarding proof of stake, they have high, just as much security as proof of work, and you use modeling to do that. The speed is much better. The transaction costs are much better, and the energy used is hardly anything. So this is the reason Ethereum's moving to proof of stake. This is the reason proof of stake is seen as the path forward for those who are developers. And delegated proof of stake, there's risk of collusion, so you have a much less security with this model. However, you do have very good speeds, just like regular internet speeds. And the other two components are very similar. And then there's the DAG model. I think DAGs are going to stick around as well. They're just like proof of stake. They have so many of them have some parts of proof of stake incorporated in them, and their security they looked very similar, and yet they have a higher speed. But one of the things, the drawbacks with this, is it does require proof of stake, and it needs a lot of users in many cases to work. The more participants, the more secure it is. So it usually needs a lot of users to be secure. Okay, so another component that's very important is Turing complete versus not Turing complete. So Bitcoin is not Turing complete, which means it is not like a computer. It can only do one thing, whereas Ethereum is Turing complete. Dot is Turing complete, and that means you have unpredictable runtimes, whereas with Bitcoin you have predictable runtimes. So there's less attack vectors, and the store value is the only thing it can do. Whereas with Ethereum you have more demand for use cases, but you do have also more attack vectors. Now, this is important for this video because the more demand coming from functionality, I think that has more growth potential. So whether Bitcoin stays on top, I actually think it's not. And the reason why is because for me, functionality will lead to demand, will lead to increase in price. Once again, functionality will lead to demand. Having function is going to drive people to use it. And eventually, people will start pricing things in terms of the one that has the most functionality. That is my belief. Now, I might be wrong on that. People like Michael Saylor might be right that a store value is the only thing that matters. Who knows? But this is, for me, what my mind works off of. So will Bitcoin remain king? Honestly, no one knows. And anyone who claims that they do know is lying. No one knows. No one can know. We can't see the future. But no project can be, I don't think it will. And one of the reasons is because no project has proven to be secure, inexpensive, and scalable. Not Bitcoin, not Ethereum, not DOT. No one's proven to be secure, inexpensive, and scalable. Not yet, anyways. I believe mankind will figure this out. If you don't believe mankind will figure this out, then go ahead and invest in Bitcoin and just be fine with that. But I do believe we will figure out how to have something that's secure, inexpensive, and scalable. And when we do, that is when cryptocurrency will be mature. And I think that Polkadot may be the closest, but only time will tell. And the reason why I believe that is you can look in my DOT videos, but basically you have these blockchains on top of Polkadot, and these are throughput parallelization. So if you have overload of your app or application, you could reroute traffic to another area and have it computed somewhere else. And because these chains intercommunicate, they could send information back. And so you can have parallelization of information. So several of these parachains could be processing the same type of throughput, allowing for you to add more and more and more of these parallel chains, allowing for more and more throughput, more transactions. So that is scalability, in my opinion. So it looks like Polkadot has solved the security, making it inexpensive, and solving the scalability. But only time will tell. So the reason I'm going to dig into Polkadot is because I think Polkadot is in the best position to succeed in answering those questions. And the reason why is they have something called Metcalfe's Law. I will get into that towards the end of the video. They have something with the Polkadot consensus where they have security and low cost, which is, the proof of stake models that they have. And then the scalability is through this cross-chain message passaging. That's scalability. So they have hit, once again, it looks like Polkadot's going to hit all three of these. If what they're saying is true, Polkadot will be the winner in the long run. And some of the things that will make Polkadot win is you have all this value flow from all these things that Polkadot will be addressing: gaming, secure messaging, because it's Turing complete. It has functionality. And this functionality will drive users to the platform, will drive users to buy the token, will drive demand. And that, to me, is what will deliver. So, that's going to deliver more than just being a store of value, in my opinion. So it appears that Polkadot will be addressing all of those elements. So my final thoughts: Polkadot or Ethereum. Ethereum's going to scale as well with some of its upgrades, but I think Polkadot or Ethereum will be the king. That is just my opinion. I could be wrong about that. And the final thoughts I have with that is people make the argument that Metcalfe's Law is working for Bitcoin, and I agree, it is working for Bitcoin. And, I am definitely, Bitcoin's a huge part of my portfolio, but regarding Bitcoin being the leader, this is the reason I don't think it is. Because what Metcalfe's law is stating is as more users grow in your system, the value of your system grows exponentially. And so, as you get more users in your system, the network itself becomes more valuable. So Bitcoin has value of users. It has Metcalfe's law. That's why it grew so well. However, Ethereum has value of users, growing from the square of the users, just like Metcalfe's law. So this is number of users. The value of the network grows exponentially as you have the square of the users, and it overcomes this. Underneath this curve, it's useless, but then it reaches a critical cross point where it's extremely valuable from that point forward, growing extremely fast in price. That's what Bitcoin and Ethereum and DOT have. Is as the users grow exponentially, they cross that point. But what Ethereum has that Bitcoin doesn't is it has Turing complete. This Turing complete means the value of the functional programming also is under Metcalfe's law. So you have the number of users for Metcalfe's law, just like Bitcoin, but you have the functional programming component under Metcalfe's law. And you also have developer work capture under Metcalfe's law. So that's why Ethereum will win, in my opinion. And also Polkadot, the reason Polkadot might overtake Ethereum, it might happen, or at the very least, they're both going to be critical components, is because Polkadot also has these two, but because of its substrate framework, it has this one squared, whereas Ethereum developers come into the Ethereum network and they have to rebuild things, so their tool sets, are often not shared or not incompatible. But Polkadot has a built-in functionality with their substrate model that allows for this Metcalfe's law with developers. So the iterations of progress with this is going to be much faster than Ethereum. But I do think Ethereum and Polkadot are going to be extremely relevant in the future. So to end the video, I know this was a long one. The addressable market of Turing-complete projects is several of magnitudes bigger than just sort of value. So this whole question, my answer to you, whether Bitcoin will remain king, is probably not, but maybe I'm wrong. There's a lot of people that are smart that think otherwise, but that is my reasoning behind why I think that Bitcoin will not remain king, because Metcalfe's law is working for these in a much more strong way than it is for Ethereum, than it is for Bitcoin, because we are going to answer secure, inexpensive, and scalable, and we're going to benefit from that additional functionality, of not of being more than just just being not Turing complete. We have that. It's not just Turing complete. It's Bitcoin is not Turing complete, but these other projects are Turing complete, and so they can do more functionalities, and that functionality is going to drive people to those projects in the long run. All right, guys, if you like this kind of content, give me a like, a subscribe. I try to bring the highest quality content I can, and I look forward to the next video, the final video in this series, which will be a walk in the future and what the future will look like from blockchain technology.